It's Don here from the board. Thanks for coming along and checking out this video. Today I'm going to be trying to build a EleksMaker EleksDrill mini bench drill. This is a kit that's been provided to me courtesy of Banggood, and of course, as per usual, everything and anything that I say, my criticisms, likes, dislikes about this kit is 100% my opinion only, and this is not a paid advertisement or review. So this is a really interesting one because with a lot of the stuff that I do here on this YouTube channel and builds and DIY and stuff like that, I'm always looking for tools and kits that are useful for what we do in mechanical keyboards, especially prototype builds. The thing that I have a problem with in my home is that I have a very limited amount of space. So the fact that if you've seen any of the videos on the CNC machine, I can't even sit it on my desk that is here in front of me. I have to sit it on bench stools beside me and hook it up to the computer. I don't have a garage, I don't have a workshop space, so I'm very limited in what I can use. A drill press or a bench drill is a very useful device for a lot of different reasons, because you can drill holes into plates, into PCBs, into cases and things like that. And we've already seen other people use them to put things like ball bearings into keycaps to make your own homing keys. We've seen people drill holes into keycaps to embed things like gems and jewelry and stuff like that to make artisans. So it's quite a valuable type of kit, but most bench presses and things like that are massive. They're big. They sit on stands, and they have big hand cranks and things like that, and chucks that you can change out different sizes. You can even put hole cutters in them and things like that. So when I saw this little bench top device, I thought that would be really cool, because it would actually be something useful and would fit on my desk when I need to use it, and it wouldn't take up a lot of space and wouldn't have to have a workshop. It could be stored away. So that's what we're going to be having a look at. But there is something that I've discovered since, which I'll get to very shortly. So first of all, let's just actually go and have a look at what we're talking about. And this is the device. This is a completed one. It's not a render. I hope it could be a render. I'm not 100% sure. There are a bunch of different pictures, but it looks like it's a legitimate thing and not a render. Whereas there are other pictures which are floating around the internet of this device which do look like a render. So we can see it's about $100. There might be a coupon or something like that, or a discount code or something, a link in the video description below, courtesy of my Banggood rep. Here's some details. About 2 kilos is what it's meant to weigh. 36, that's the package size. The product is a lot smaller, so 20 centimeters by 15 by 14, and about 1.5 kilos. It's 12 volts, and it should come with a power supply as well. So drill bits not included, not an issue. And these are the renders that I'm talking about. So you'll see they're the renders and part of the design. So pretty simple, right? What we're kind of expecting. Well, here's the box, and I already opened it to check it out, to make sure it was what I was hoping to get, because the barcode wasn't really meaning very much. And I have literally not taken anything out of this. The problem that I have is that's all that came in it. So there's the acrylic bits, some bolts, controller, bracket, probably power supply related things, or power supply related things underneath here. There's the actual drill component. I think the chuck might be in there, and a card that says EleksMaker. What's really interesting is the fact that there are no instructions in here how to put it together. With the 3018 CNC machine that I've looked at before, it actually had instructions on how to put it together, and you can find them online. So I went online and I searched, and I found that nobody had instructions. None of the vendors who have this listed as a product have instructions. Banggood doesn't have it, AliExpress doesn't have it, other retailers didn't have it. So I made my way through to the EleksMaker website, and then to their Discord, and through communicating with them, they don't have instructions. So I don't know if it's just a matter of that they were like, well, we didn't bother making instructions because it wasn't a super popular product. That's exactly what happened, right? That's what they said. So I'm hoping I'm going to be able to get through this and build something and use the reference images of the completed product to put it together. It should be pretty straightforward operationally because it doesn't require programming. It's just power and on-off, right? And that should be it. So it's more about the mechanical construction and where the pieces go and how it makes sense and so on and so forth. So I'm going to cut the video now at this part because the kit, it's just, you know, there's some bracket bits, there's some slidey bits, there's the actual frame itself, there's the bolts, a power cable to the motor controller for speed regulation, because there's a little dial here that you can turn to regulate the speed of what's going on. I think that's going to be the power adapter. That's typical of its size. Yep, so there's the 12-volt power there. Another mounting bracket. I suspect that's probably, it's something heavy. Well, there's some kind of spindle thing there, and what's in this? That the chuck? Yeah, so that's the chuck in there. So you can see that's the chuck, as I expected. And then there's the actual motor that the chuck will attach to. Got a good weight to it. So what's going to happen is I'm going to stop the video and record a separate bit trying to put this together. Yeah, I don't know if I'll speed it up or not. Just depends on how it goes, and we'll see what comes out on the end. If we can find a drill bit somewhere in one of my other tool sets, then might give it a bell. See you soon. Okay, so we're back. It took me 1 hour and 47 minutes to put this together, and it's tested to be functional in regards that the motor spins, it's electrically hooked up, the actual power is connected over here. Now I've just got some bits here to actually give it a test run. Now that's what it looks like front on. It's got 2 rails with some kind of bearings inside the actual brackets that are held here. The motor is held on by 2 screws down the bottom. The chuck is just a press fit upwards, and there's a very simple lever here that pulls down, and you'll see there's a spring at the back here that pulls it back up, and so that's the rail that I'm talking about. Now that's really more decorative and structural support against the frame. Not really necessary, because it has a very hefty sort of beam structure that actually holds it in place. I was actually short 1 short screw to hold this component on, so I had to use a spacing object here, which is normally just a guide thing that these lock into. The side here is actually a bearing set with a lock nut, and it's just a couple of screws that hold in this lever, and it just allows it to sort of rotate and move, and you can see the spring under tension at the back there. Then the bottom is just mechanical structure in regards to holding and keeping the frame nice and rigid. On this side there is actually a I do apologize if I was sounding very faint because I forgot that my microphone had been lifted. On this side there is actually a speed dial for the speed of the motor that is actually turning the drill bit, and the rest is just all mechanical holding. So the only thing that I would be kind of concerned about this is that that's electrically exposed. I would probably feel more comfortable if there was actually a cover over that. So I might actually do that myself and just put a bit of tape over it so you don't have an accidental contact to it. It is only 12 volt, but it's 2 amp. So if you're going to get zapped, it's still going to hurt. I don't know if you're necessarily going to get killed from it, but I would prefer that, you know, that risk is reduced. So yeah, I'm just going to tape over those so you don't get direct electrical contact with that. Right. Overall, it wasn't actually that hard to build once I understood what was required, and it's just the build order and what components that you got to put on first and what you need to attach. So I would recommend that if you're going to be building this, you need to build this entire top assembly first, and then you slot it in, lock it in, and then slide the actual switch through the hole, and then lock that in. So what I mean is, because you can undo these 4 and that will just slide left and right. So put it on first, tighten it lightly, put the whole top block into the frame, which is assembled separately. Then you can rack it out to the side and lock it in, and then you can assemble the actual lever arm last, because that's really easy to do. Now the bearings I think have been sealed for quite a while because there's a bit of surfaced rust on them, so it's just steel, it's not stainless steel. I do just have some generic sewing oil here, so you probably shouldn't do what I'm doing, which is still have it plugged in, but the power source is actually turned off. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to rack it down, and I'm going to apply 1 drop. It's quite a very low viscosity oil because it's sewing machine oil, and I'm just going to rack that back and forth. There's probably going to be a bit of excess that will drip out, so that's why I've got some paper here, so I can sort of touch that up once I brighten it up. You can kind of hear that grinding, but that's just the bearings doing its kind of job, I guess. So I might put a drop on the front as well, just to give it a bit of extra smoothness and moving, because you want that to be obviously as smooth as possible. What I do like is that it came with that really nice little box for where all the parts, the loose screws and stuff like that came in. That was a really nice touch, rather than just, you know, in Ziploc packets. So that was good. Appreciated for that. Okay, so let's go and lube the other side. You want to use something that's a thin lubricant. I don't think a thick lubricant is really required in this. While it's kind of load bearing, the motor itself isn't super heavy, and the spring is perfectly adequate, I think, in handling that. I'm just gonna put some on the front here. It'll work its way down, and then it's rotated over this way. And put some on this one too. Okay, so while that doesn't sound any better, the action does actually feel better slightly. It's very, very marginal. Was it worth the effort? Honestly couldn't tell you, but at least there is that psychological effect of me. It's definitely doesn't sound any better, but it definitely feels a lot better. Now that cabling, I wish they'd given you a longer cable so it could come up over the top rather than going through the back. I had to go through the back because it wasn't actually long enough to go through the top. So that's just one thing that you have to be aware of. That cabling will route through the middle there and not over the top. That's got, you know, good enough response to come back up. Now I've just got some generic drill bits over here. It's meant to take from 0.3 to 4 mil. Now I've busted my 4 mil, so it's probably not a good one to try and put in there. Let's go with, and I've also broken my 2 mil. So let's go with a 3 mil because, I don't know, M3 sized screws and bolts are actually quite common for keyboards. Now this chuck is, it's one of those that has it comes with the actual key, so that's always nice. So you just fit the key in and then you can turn it and it actually opens up the mouth. It opens up the chuck width and you can fit your drill bit in. Now notice how long this is. I suspect if you can get smaller ones, shorter ones, that might be better, because you don't get a lot of clearance in this at all. Like it's quite that it's practically very little movement on these, and that's a problem with this. You can't really rack this much higher. Now if you turn this top bracket around, you would get a lot of clearance height, but then you're going to be heaps off. So I'm just seeing, because I've just got some scrap plywood here. Is that even going to fit underneath it? Yeah, it'll fit underneath it, so we can use that to play with. But that's just something to be aware of. You might need to get short drill bits, short hanked drill bits to actually suit. So let's just tighten this back up. Am I going the right way? I think so. Certainly don't want it to come loose and cause an accident. Okay. Right. The other thing I forgot to mention is there's actually a brass adapter, because the motor spindle coming out is actually very small and doesn't suit this. So you have to use that adapter, and then that just pushes on. It's firm enough that it's not coming off, and it's not heavy enough that it comes off by itself either. So there we have it. That's what it looks like front on, as you would have just seen. And then of course I have to be careful not to go too deep, because if I go all the way down I actually hit the metal frame. So we've got a bit of clearance, so I can actually get that underneath, and I should be able to drill through it. Okay, so there's a pristine section there, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to get just my marker. Let's just put a dot there, so you can see there's where I'm going to try and drill. So that was not a good spot because of trying to get underneath it, unless if can I rejig this any other way to get underneath? So this drill bit being so long is part of the problem. It's alright, I can kind of get it in there, braced in there. Alright, so power on and speed on. It's quite quiet. I don't know if you can actually hear that or not. Probably hear the traffic more than that. But it is spinning, so I'm going to carefully insert my piece of timber in it, and let's give it a try. I've got it on quite a low speed right now because I don't know what kind of speed it should be. There we go, it's a little bit louder now. Okay, so the motor itself doesn't have a very high amount of torque. It obviously was struggling a little bit at the lowest speeds to actually drill its way through. It did manage to get all the way through that with, you know, a bit of care, and that's okay. For something like this, you know, you shouldn't just be cranking all the way down. Typical drill presses, you will actually slowly, you know, pull the handle and spin it through to cut its way and clear out debris and vacuum it and stuff like that. So it's definitely done the job. It is actually holding relatively straight. I did notice that there was a bit of wobble happening on this, and I don't know if it's because of the chuck, the drill bit, the adapter, or the actual motor spindle not being straight. The other factor that's also involved is the 4 screws that hold this metal bracket. If you don't get them lined up flush, which I've attempted to do as best as I can, then your motor is going to be potentially tilted at an angle. But as far as it goes, it certainly does what it's designed to do, which is drill straight holes with some relative amount of confidence. So, tick. Easy to build, tick. Relatively affordable, $100. You kind of have to decide that yourself. I'm okay with it being about $100 because if you look after it, it'll certainly last a long time. Like, you know, the materials are easy to look after and maintain. And I would say you could probably just get a replacement motor if it burns out somehow. But it's low voltage, then there's really no reason why it should burn out as long as you take care. The only thing is, once again, you just have to make sure that your drill bits have short hanks on them so that you get a lot more clearance and space. Now, the other thing is the safety factor, because you've got something that's rotating, right? There's no emergency safety or cutoff here. So if you're drilling and you're holding onto something and something happens, there's no cutoff. Whereas on a lot of big industrial bench ones or lab ones, for example, they've got the emergency stop button. So it would be nice if you could have like an emergency stop button somewhere that you could put on it, and it has a cutoff that you can slap and it cuts off power to this. But that said, this is a home device, this is a small device, and of course with all tools, with all power tools, you have to maintain your own degree of personal safety and use. Overall, I really like it. I don't know why it's not as popular as it potentially could be. You can certainly fit a keycap under there. So, you know, here's a DSA keycap. There's plenty of space to get in under that drill bit, and you can drill it. The other thing is, so me thinking about this ages ago was because of those Otemu housings where you supposedly had to hold the housing and actually drill through it to open the stem so that you could put other stems into that housing, because the Otemu stems are actually a little bit thinner on that bottom bit that sticks out at the bottom. And I thought, I really hate the idea of holding a drill like steady enough that you can hold a housing and, you know, put it through to drill it out. Whereas if you can put something together and slide it underneath, drop the housing in, go whoop, it's done, next one, whoop, it's done. Speeds up a lot of time, you can clear through this, and you can do it in a safe manner. Especially because, you know, I don't know where they've gone, but I've got the the switch holes that, well, I mean, this is an example of it, right? So if you actually put a housing in here and you manage to sit that underneath, then you can easily do what I'm just talking about there quite safely. So there you have it. here is the EleksMaker EleksDrill kit. You can get it from a variety of places. You won't find instructions, but it's fairly straightforward. You just have to be, a little bit mindful. Build the top block, build the frame, slide it in, lock it down, slide the control dial across into a hole, lock that down, put the handle in and the bearings, lock that down. Put the wire for the motor power through the middle here, and then away you go. Done and dusted. Easy. So thank you very much, Banggood, for supplying this. Thank you to the guys at EleksMaker for actually letting me know and not wonder if there was instructions or not. And yeah, good luck, have fun, be safe. Thanks for checking out the video. And of course, as usual, until next time, happy clacking.